Good morning. It is October 29th, 2016. It is hard to believe that October is almost over and is coming to an end. So that means that this week's weekly weather briefing will be taking us through the end of October and into the beginning of November. And we might even go a little bit beyond the first week of November just to see what November, the rest of it, might have in store for us. And it was a very warm week this week, is all I can say is wow. And it is going to be warm continuing into this week, at least for most of this week. But it looks like by the end of this upcoming week, we might have a little bit of a flip in the temperatures as we go throughout the second half of this week. It looks like a cold front is going to be coming through on sometime around the Wednesday, Thursday time period. And if it comes through during that time, then we might see our temperatures drop a good 15 degrees is what some of the models are predicting. Some are going lower than that, but I think that once this cold front can come through, then we might actually be settling into those 60s and 70s for daytime highs, and we won't have to worry about 80s anymore. But a couple weeks ago, we thought that we were done with 80s. I missed that part of the forecast. We are not done with 80s. In fact, mid 80s are going to be a possibility as we head in through this weekend, Halloween, and on Tuesday, November 1st, yes, you heard me, we might start November off in the mid 80s. In fact, Tuesday looks to be the warmest day out of these upcoming 4 days of this warmth. And I've just never seen warm weather that has lasted so long. I've seen the warm temperatures at this time of the year rise up to around 80 degrees, maybe right ahead of a cold front, but that's just for a day. And now we're seeing those temperatures prolonged like it's almost a heat wave coming in. If this was summertime, we might be talking about temperatures into the 100s because of how warm these anomalies are. This is a very strong area of high pressure, and it's this area, it's this bud right here, that is who you can blame for this warm weather. That is the southeast ridge, and it has been the most stubborn thing the entire summer and the entire fall months because it continues to push south winds into our region. And when it does so, when you get winds out of the south, it brings in warmer temperatures, and this stubborn ridge just wants to sit there and sit there. It seems like every day when I look at the current weather map, it is there, and it's just it just stays there, and it's hard to get rid of it. And a southeast ridge, out of all other components, in my opinion, is probably one of the hardest things to break down, and that is why this warm and dry weather has lasted so long, because of how stubborn this southeast ridge is. And it's not only affecting us, it's affecting the entire southeast and the northeast as well with drought conditions and warm temperatures. The northeast has gotten a few cold spells that have came in. They experienced their first snowfall in New England this week as well, and that was another highlight. But back here at home, we haven't had much. We had some rain move in Wednesday night, but that was about it, and it wasn't even hardly anything. I picked up 2/100ths of an inch here at my house, and since we're not forecasting any rain throughout the next couple of days through the end of October, then it looks like we're going to end October here at my place with 0.26 inches of rain. That means that we finished just 1/100th of an inch over a 1/4 inch of rain. So it was a very dry October here at my place, and the warm temperatures is what is also impacting us as well. This might be one of the warmest Octobers that we've seen on record. Alright, enough on that. That was my rant on how it has been warm and dry, and we need to get rid of it. But the reason we're going to go beyond the first week of November in this weekly's weather briefing is because I want to show you what is in store and what we could be possibly seeing as we head throughout the rest of November. So go ahead and watch the rest of the video if you want to learn more on that. Moving throughout this week, as we go through Sunday and Monday, we have a little system that is coming out of the northern plains, and it is going to go through Chicago, northern Indiana, and then swing on off towards the mid-Atlantic and northeast, and it will be moving offshore. Very, very quick system, and it's almost like an Alberta Clipper, but this is all rain. You notice how our low pressure is all the way up here into Canada. Now, that is normal for the end of summer or beginning of fall. Our low pressure is associated most of the time with a jet stream, unless it's a cutoff low. And when it's associated with a jet stream, the jet stream is further and further working its way south during the fall months, because by the time we get to winter, that jet stream is low enough into the mid-latitudes that we can experience those polar outbreaks and polar vortexes. But these low pressure low pressure systems, if they stay all the way up here, which they're not supposed to be there at this time of the year, we should be seeing those low pressure systems already around the U.S. Canadian border, and then by the time we get into or early to mid November, we should already be seeing our snowfall working its way into Minnesota, back towards North Dakota, South Dakota, and on over towards the extreme northern New England areas. But we're not seeing that. So when all of these low pressure systems stay north of here, they bring warm and moist air ahead of them, and that's why it's been so warm as well. Is because our low pressure systems want to keep going north of us, and when that happens, the we don't have, and especially if they go too far north, because then the cold front doesn't trail far enough south to impact our weather with rain and cold weather behind it. So we got to get low pressure systems further south, like this one right here, to get any rain, which that system looks like it's going to be a part of our region's weather as we head throughout Thursday of this week. It looks like a cold front is going to stay just right here around the Chicago area back towards the Central Plains. I don't think it's going to have this much precipitation with it. I think the GFS is overdoing it a bit, because every single system that's been coming into our region continues to get drier and drier and drier. And when this happens, we don't end up with much rain. And, that's also another reason why it's been dry, is because we, every single time we get a system that comes through, it weakens and weakens and weakens. By the time we get to that system, it's hardly anything, and some areas have not picked up any measurable rainfall in western Kentucky this October, which is just crazy to think about. October's always been a dry month for us, but it hasn't been this dry in a while. Last year we had a dry spell around the end of September, beginning of October. This year it's lasting all of September, all of October, and it might last into the first half of November as well if we can't get this system to this pattern to break down. It looks good right about now, but then, like all the other systems have been doing, it gets to our region and it weakens. So if it's showing this far out, by the time it gets here, more than likely just a few light showers is all it's going to bring. What the GFS has been consistent on is by this time next week, it's wanting to just kind of throw some light showers around the southeast and the southern plains, which tells me that the GFS is picking up on some high moisture content around here to support those daily showers that you would pick up during the summertime. And they just kind of sit there for several days. Finally, it breaks down, but as we go throughout the rest of the weekly weather briefing and into the beginning of the following week after this week, this would put us at November the 8th on Tuesday. The GFS has been beginning to pick up on more low pressure systems coming further south. Like I said, they should be right about here this time of the year, around the U.S. Canadian border. And when it's this far south, as you can tell, it impacts our region's weather. It spits a few light showers, and you have some cold temperatures behind it. It moves in, it impacts our weather. But when it's too far north, it can't do that. This is November 10th, and it is showing some pretty cold temperatures as well, around the upper 30s for lows, and that is below normal at that time frame. And we look throughout the rest of November into the middle of November, you can tell we are beginning to see more low, and this is not just this run of the GFS. Several other runs have been showing this solution where these low pressure systems are beginning to come out of the Rockies and swing northeastward. That is what we get at the beginning and the end of winter, when we start to see these low pressure systems move out of the Rockies and into the northern plains. That's why the Central Plains gets most of their snow in the beginning and end of winter, when we see these low pressure systems starting to work their way back up northward. And when they do so, they like to come out of the Rockies and take a northeastward track, and it puts blizzard conditions into parts of the plains. So when we know that we see those low pressure systems beginning to show up in models and beginning to do what this one is showing, that's when we know that we are starting to head into the beginning of winter, because those low pressure systems are further working their way south, and it spits a cold front along with it. We're getting way out there in the weather world by now, but the idea that you need to take from this is not every specific detail, like you see cold front at this time, rain at this time. Just take the idea that we are going to be seeing more frequent cold shots, it looks like, as we head into the beginning to middle of November. Now, take this as a grain of salt, because the models have been showing this for the last several weeks, but it never ends up happening. So make sure and just monitor the weather and always know what's happening, because this big pattern flip that is possible around middle of November, that is going to be something that we're going to have to monitor, because we could go straight from these warm, nice, comfortable fall temperatures to all of the sudden winter. And when that happens, it really puts a shock to the system. Temperature anomalies throughout this week are going to be averaging above normal, really even after that cold front moves through, still above normal. See, that's another thing. Our temperatures have been going so far above normal that when they go so far above normal, when a cold front comes through, the temperatures behind that cold front are still above normal. That's something to say because of how warm we have been lately, and it doesn't even show those colder, but you notice how the pattern is beginning to break down in the GFS model, and it puts two code shots, and pretty good ones too, through there, and if this model's correct, then we might be seeing some cold temperatures in store later on down the road around the middle of November. So we're going to have to watch this pattern. Temperatures this week are going to be very, very warm. We're going to be seeing temperatures in the 80s all the way through Tuesday, and we might even be breaking records for the second time this fall. It seems like we have been just doing it all the time now, because we had this a couple weeks ago as well. But if we go through, today is the 29th, and we could be possibly breaking a record today. I forecasted a high of 83, so I don't know if we're going to get up to 85 degrees. But the 30th, 31st of October, and then the 1st of November, highs on November 1st might be in the middle 80s. Some models want to show upper 80s for November the 1st. So if that is the case, we might be looking at 1987 getting replaced with 2016, and it could be getting replaced as well for the 31st, Halloween, and the 30th of October. So there is a high chance this year that we could say that we will be experiencing our warmest Halloween on record.